Let's continue with tool modes. So I've created a series of rectangles here to demonstrate arcs. So if I click on the arcs, I had to click on the screen again because of the video cast. If I click on the arcs, I see these different options over here. So these options all have to do with how that arc will be drawn. You can play with each one of these individually. I'm not going to get into all of them. I want to see that you have played with all of them. I'm going to do with the point on arc mode. So what this means is I create the overall length of the arc, and then I decide what the top to bottom length is. So if we're thinking about this like the the bar for rumors, that might be one way I would go about that. There's also this one, which is the arc tool center mode, right? That's sort of the wrong center, right? So I hit the escape button here to here. Now I'm controlling where the center of the whole sort of circle is. It's just a different way of doing it. You can read up by hovering more information about this. So those are arcs. When you're practicing arcs, don't try to do them just sort of off on their own, because none of that will make any sense because it's out of context. Try and put an arc on something or connecting with two lines, because that's how you're actually going to be using arcs in reality. So just make sure you're trying to do things, not just randomly clicking. Although you'll have plenty of time to figure that out when we move on to the orthographic project. There's also this little guy here, which allows you to scribble and draw. For the most part, that's how he works. We also have the Polyline tool. So there's the polyline and the 2D polygon, and the double line polygon. These are all in the same family. The polyline tool specifically can be really useful because you can toggle between curvy lines and straight lines. And you can always be manipulating this as you go. Don't forget what he taught you, which is the U, I, O, and P help you toggle between these things. So I'm just hitting the U over and over and over again because there's a gray bar, and so I can go between all of these. This is really useful with this line. That way you don't have to come up and click each time. So we're going to start with the first one. This one is called corner vertex mode. This one is called, okay, I'm just not going to say these names. You'll figure it out. Here's the corner vertex mode. So I can create a straight line, and then I'm going to hit the U button to move over one. Now you can see that it shows a curvy line, and so what I can do is click multiple points to create a curvy line. I'm going to hit the U button again to go to the next one. This one allows you to create even more acute lines. See, it actually adjusts all the other points before it as you go. I'm going to hit the U again. This one allows you to even make actual real circles. And this is just what you should be doing, is going through, playing, understanding these tools a little better. You're not really going to understand them until you put them to practical use. But that you may find this to be helpful when you're trying to figure out how to do your project later. And I can go back. So the double click is what ends the line. Because we're using a line that has a solid fill on it, you can see the white fill part versus the off-white sort of top plan view. Let's go to 2D polygon. So what's cool about a 2D polygon is you can still input all kinds of information, but when you close it, and again I didn't have to double click because I closed it, now it's an object and I can change the fill on this, I can do all kinds of different things. The double one is the same as the single one. There's also a spiral tool, super fun. Never have actually used it for reality. In the interest of time, I'm going to show you some of the other really useful items. So the nudge tool, for our purpose, the reshape tool, it used to be called the nudge tool. The reshape tool is kind of a little bit evil. This is how you make your TD crazy. So I would tell you not to use that unless you absolutely have to. The rotate tool always confuses people a little bit. So let's say I have this object right here and I want to rotate it. So I've clicked on the rotate, and also don't forget about your soft keys. Rotate is Alt plus equal. Well, sorry, that's for Windows, not for me. That may sound a little complicated, but I promise you, you'll start to understand it. Like your fingers will just do certain things eventually. You could also get a fancy mouse and set things that you commonly use. And I promise you, rotating is commonly used. So the first thing you want to do in the rotate mode, currently it is not repeating itself, whereas this mode is duplicate mode, which repeats whatever you're doing. So in duplicate mode, you need to click somewhere on the object where the fulcrum point, essentially. And then you want to click somewhere else on that object, and you can see how it rotates then. So let's say if I rotated it upside down here, there it would go. If I wanted a copy of it, as I did that, I would click here, and I would rotate here, right? And so that's a copy of that rotation. So just don't forget it's a 3-click item. Let's say I wanted to mirror this now. I could click somewhere, and I'm going to hold down the shift button to make sure that I'm straight up and down, because you'd be surprised at how often you get, just a little bit off. So I'm holding down the shift button, and then that mirrors that object to the other side. Mirror also has a duplicate function or a non-duplicate standard mode. As the trim tool. The trim tool is super helpful because it could just trim off portions. Now just to erase that whole thing, I hit Command Z to bring it back. Command Z is your undo button. Undo buttons are amazing. So if I have another line here that intersects one line, so let's go deeper into this. I've got 2 intersecting lines. I have the trim tool, I can trim just part of it. But if I don't have 2 intersecting lines, it'll just delete the whole darn thing, so you gotta be careful. So if I were to go up to my scribble here, I could delete some of it, but not all of it. The best way to control what you want to erase is to select the thing that you want to control. So within this, I want to erase this in the middle here. I can click there. So between these 2 points, it goes away. There's an erase tool, honestly, a clip tool. Honestly, I really just usually erase things with delete. Move by points. This is my favorite. So move by points allows you to move something to somewhere else. So if I were trying, let's say, to move this whole item somewhere else, I would go to Move by Points, which has its own quick keys. This is the duplicate mode. This is the one that people always forget about, and so you have to hit Command Z to undo. So if I were to duplicate this, I would select what I want to duplicate and move. I would click in one corner, and I would click somewhere else. Now I've got a duplicate of it. I use this all the freaking time. Also, don't forget to click that off if you just want to adjust a little bit. If you just want to move it over to the left a couple inches, I could go ahead and click in this corner. I can hit the tab function, and I could say 1 foot, enter, enter, and it'll just move it over 1 foot, okay? Or I could just free click here to here, and it will move. But it's this one on and off, okay? You can also, so this is move mode. There's also distribute mode. So if I wanted to do a repeatable, I could do this and this and this, right? So distribute mode, or you could have a specific number of duplicates, right? So maybe I say 5, enter. Bam! I have 5. Now, this gets a little more complicated. I prefer a different tool if you're going to duplicate items, but know that that exists. I will show you that different tool in the next lesson. There's dimensions. Let's not get into those yet. There's a whole unit based on that. There is duplicate. So this is going to be useful to you. So right now the distance is set as 0.125. Let's make it 1 inch. So I'm going to select an item, hitting the X key. I'm going to select that by clicking, and then I am going to use the offset button here, and I'm going to click inside of it. Now it looked like it just got darker because that 1 inch tool offset that line. I'm going to show you closer up. Bam, bam, bam. I can do it this direction. Bam, bam. Now I'm just overlapping them, right? So Command Z. So I can go inside the circle or outside the circle, but it's whichever line is selected. So if I hit X again, I select the outside of the circle, and then I go ahead and I use offset, which is here. Now, these are all set to be solid. So if I decided that I didn't want all of these to be solid, first of all, I could go into the classes. And I could go to my, since I'm currently using medium, and you can see because of the check mark, right? I can say edit. And if I just decided that I wanted all of my drafting stuff not to be solid, I could just say none. I could say okay. So I'm going to do that really fast. I'm going to go from drafting 1 to 5, edit, style, none. Okay. Okay. And now you can see it's retroactively changed all of that. So now there's none of that fill going on in any of this. I waited to show you this until you could see the difference of what fill and not fill is. So the drafting ones, it's best if they don't have fill. And that if you want to create a set of classes that does have a fill, that's a better way to go. So you can call them your solid classes. So let's do that really fast. I would like you to go to classes, and I want you to make a solid fill. And you should know how to do that from the last time. And so what you're doing is you're making a cyan and a magenta. So if I click on cyan, you're going to say edit, and you want to make sure that over here it's still black for the solid pen style, all of that. 0.5 is fine, but you're going to make the style solid and the color cyan and magenta for the other one. And then what you can do is you can go up here to solid and select cyan. And now if you use some of these solid fill objects, you'll be able to toggle between the two. So if I do the next one as magenta, then I can create a magenta object, and that will help us with the next part of the project.